Mayday relay, mayday relay. Immediate assistance is required. We observe a white rubber boat in distress. No life-saving equipment.
You hear people talk about how the Mediterranean is kind of Europe's largest mass grave. And you see just how easy it is. I mean, there's 40 people here that nobody is paying any attention to except for us and trying to get somebody to help these people.
Currently drifting, doing maybe 1 to 2 knots. This boat is never going to make it.
I'm on board a flight run by activists and volunteers who patrol the central Mediterranean. They spot migrant boats in distress and try to mobilize countries or even nearby ships to rescue them. It's been 10 years since more than 1 million people crossed into Europe seeking safety. It was a moment that transformed European politics, with some seizing on the arrivals to push anti-immigration rhetoric and policy.
It's one of the major issues in the Dutch politics today.
Ce fléau dont nos nations doivent impérativement se préserver.
Sono i trafficanti di esseri umani che organizzano la tratta dell'immigrazione illegale di massa.
I'm traveling to the edges of Europe to find out how a hardening stance on migration could actually be fueling criminal gangs. I want to know if the EU's crackdown has stopped people on the move, or whether it's just forcing them to take longer and more dangerous journeys. We've taken off from the Italian island of Lampedusa. It's one of the first EU territories that migrants come across if they're crossing the central Mediterranean. Over 36,000 crossings have been made on this route so far this year.
Rubber boats are the most vicious, the most dangerous of these vessels. Because, I mean, they're clearly not made to cross open water. From what we've seen here, I would estimate that the people have been on the water for at least a day. People suffer from dehydration, heat stroke, burns from the fuel, but death comes in many forms, unfortunately, on this route.
We know from flight data that Frontex, the EU's border and coast guard agency, was flying above this boat during the night, but there's no sign of a rescue, so the crew sends out mayday calls.
Valley rig, this is aircraft Seabird 1, aircraft Seabird 1.
Did you have any luck with any of the calls or anything?
You have a legal obligation to render assistance to a boat in distress, to people whose lives are at risk, but that's not happening. It is not happening because states refuse to take over coordination of these cases. So any vessel that might rescue people now is going to get stuck with them.
There's literally nobody here. There's been nobody here for hours as we've been circling this case.
Yep, and now you can imagine what's going on when you're not flying here. All the boats which go completely unnoticed.
After pressure from the crew, one ship from a nearby oil rig has moved closer to the boat. But suddenly, we spot a fast-moving, unmarked boat coming directly towards us. We don't know who's on this boat, but it's most likely a militia group coming from Libya to recapture these people.
People panic, of course, when these grey militia boats show up.
Guys, there's people in the water, there's 2 people in the water.
Oh God.
Trying to escape. I'd rather die than go back to Libya kind of attitude.
I'm watching as people are being forced from one boat onto the other to be likely escorted back to Libya.
What we see here is the result of a policy. This is not an accident, it doesn't have to be like that.
Almost out of fuel, we have to leave, not knowing what will happen to them.
10 years ago, this would not have happened. 10 years ago, we had European navies, European coast guards, for example, German Navy, Italian Navy, deploying active assets to get people out of the water. People would not have been exposed to the risk of immediate loss of life for half a day, or even longer. And crucially, people would not have been brought to that vicious cycle of smuggling, human trafficking, and the Libyan militia system. They would have been brought to a place of safety, extracted from that criminal environment in Libya, and Libyan militias would not have had a chance to cash in twice or thrice on the same human cargo.
What does it mean for these people to be pulled back to Libya?
That might sound like getting people to safety, but in fact it's quite the opposite. They are returned to detention camps. There they either die from torture, malnourishment, preventable disease, or they cross again.
Lampedusa is well known for its tourism and fishing, But on the other side of the island is more evidence of the grueling journey people have taken to get here. I mean, this area is just littered with pieces of this journey. These are crossings where water can run low, where food can run low, where the sun is in your face the whole time. It's pretty horrific to think about these rather flimsy boats making that crossing. This is a flotation device that you see quite often in these things. So this is the inner tube of a motorcycle tire. And you can just imagine if something happens, that this boat tips or something, or you fall out when you're trying to make that crossing. I mean, at its deepest point, the Med is 3 miles deep. And this is the difference between life and death. The chances that you have are pretty slim. Oh, wow. Holy shit. None of these vessels are safe in any way, because this looks deceptively pretty sturdy, but what this is a double decker. So it's got another kind of chamber underneath. So what will often happen is you can get up to 300 people packed underneath and above. And what they do is they put the women and children underneath because it's perceived to be safer, and it is. If you're crossing here, the sun's not beating down on you as hard as it might be. You're protected if there's huge swells and water's coming in the boat. But where the danger lies is that if these flip, you've got the sea over top of you, you've got another layer of people, and you've got this boat on top of you to get out of. And so they often end up being incredibly deadly.
I think the most important thing we are observing is that thousands of people are losing their lives because of these policy choices, year after year after year.
I think most Europeans wouldn't want what we saw, because why does it keep happening?
There's a belief in European capitals that what happens at the border can be isolated, can be kept apart from what's happening domestically. But whatever happens in your borderlands, whatever is funded by your own taxpayers' money, will sooner or later come back to haunt you. And I think we are already seeing this with the rise of the far right across Europe, an erosion of rule of law. But the EU is in one way or another sustaining these human trafficking networks through its policy choices.
Traveling across the Mediterranean isn't the only way into Europe. Serbia is in the Western Balkans and shares a land border with 4 EU countries. I'm heading to the north of the country and to the border with Hungary. Right here, we're on the edges of EU territory. Anybody trying to make it in at this area would have to cross this hulking fence. There are times where holes have been cut in the fence. There are times where ladders have been set up here and people can go over. There has even been tunnels dug underneath. And I mean, all of that is not happening because of a few people on the move. We can't talk about the last 10 years and this hardening of the EU's borders without talking about the fact that it's been a huge boon for smuggling groups. In abandoned buildings nearby, there's evidence that these have been used in the past by migrants sheltering before they cross the border. Police crackdowns on people on the move, as well as gang wars between some of the smuggling groups that have become powerful from all the money that's changing hands here, has meant that people on the move have to go even deeper underground. And I mean, that means that it's even tougher for them to get services and help when they need it. Migrants are often used by politicians to drum up votes, but I want to hear from them directly about what they are experiencing. We've waited for the cover of darkness to try and speak to some people on the move tonight. We've got a tip that there's a house here where there are a bunch of people waiting to be taken across the border by smugglers. Police raid this every hour, so we've got to use our phone lights. We're going to be quite quiet. We have to be really quick with it.
تنها جایی که ما را میتونه از باران بچ کنه. هر لحظه ممکن است پشه بیایه بخوره، هر لحظه ممکن است گشتون بیایه بخوره، هر لحظه ممکن است مار بیایه بخوره. و امی هم یه چیزی هست که شاید 1000 نفر خوابیده باشه.
We find a group of around 40 people taking shelter in the woods. Many of them had to flee their home countries when they were just teenagers. They're terrified, hungry, and exhausted, but some agree to speak to us if we can protect their identities.
هر شب میره از اینجا مردم.
How do you go? Where does it go from here?
معلوم نیست دیگه هر کس قاچاقبرش یک لوکیشن میده. قاچاقبرش در ایران است یا در افغانستان قرار خواب است، یک لوکیشن روان میکنه میگه برو خدا برسان.
Is it possible to do this without the smuggler? Or?
تو اگر زورا بری و گیر بیایی مثلا تو کسی را نداری که از یخنش بگیری. هر چقدر مثلا پول از خانوادت خواست مجبور است که خانوادت پول بده. وقتی تو با قاچاقبر صحبت میکنی اگر جای گراو شوی جای گیر بیایی قاچاقبر مسئول است و قاچاقبر مثلا تو را از دست اونا خلاص میکنه، چی به زور باشه چی به پول باشه.
It sounds really, really dangerous. Is it?
خیلی خطرناکه مگر.
چاره نیست.
Some of the people here show me their injuries from run-ins with smugglers on their journey. One person even had their toenail pulled out by smugglers to send a message to others.
They took off their
They kept you for how long and then they start pulling? What happened there? And how much money do they want?
هر چقدر که دلش خواست. به طور مثال از 5,000 یورو شروع تا 20,000 یورو.
Wow, this is really big business. People are making a lot of money off of you guys.
پرزوا مشکل نیست اونا. tak جای گرم هستن. اصل مهم نیست بچه مردم در کجاست.
There are people in Europe who tell me that it's too easy for migrants to come. I guess what do you say to those people who think that it's easy for migrants to come to Europe?
نو هغه سي دروغ وایي. مشکلات باندې چې کوم دا وړه تر شو پوښ موږ دلته نه مخکې یورپ ته په ګرانه باندې ډېر په ګرانه.
If you had a 16-year-old in Afghanistan who tells you they want to make the journey to Europe, what would you tell them?
نو هغه تم دغه نصیحت وکړو چې تاسو کوی چې تعلیم کوی او په تعلیم په سلسله لاړ شئ. په دې کچا لاړ نه شئ. په دې باندې دردونه زخمونه مرګ دی او ژوند سره لوبې کول دي.
Info Park is one of the few remaining NGOs in Serbia that supports migrants. They run a day center in the capital.
Hi, hello, welcome.
Thank you. You've been working in migration for a decade. How has that changed? Like when you started, were smugglers such a big part of this story?
When the politics in the EU changed and all emotions toward migration changed, all states invested more in defenses, in the militarization of the borders. Then people couldn't cross safely, but they were just thrown in the hands of the smugglers. We have on TikTok, we are following some of them, and they will put the commercial like guarantee no walk.
So they're not making any effort to hide what they're doing, hide their services or anything?
Everything is open, the prices are here. These are the name of the gangs. They will walk on the street, without any mask, without blurring face, anything, to show to the people that they are not scared, that nobody can touch them. All these decisions and activities of European Union actually works for them.
Works for the smugglers?
Yeah, it works for them perfectly.